Now, the senior men's 10,000 metre race is coming right up, and a lot of people around Europe and indeed the world, no doubt, will be waiting for this and the reappearance of Jakob Ingebrigtsen. We're going to have one short lap of 1,000 metres and then 6 long laps, 1,500 metres apiece to get themselves organised. There's plenty time to find out who's going to reign supreme in this year's senior men's 10,000 metre race at the SPAR European Cross Country Championships. 85 athletes in total. It's a field that's in decent size in quantity, I should say, but absolutely exceptional in quality. We'll have a good look through some of the names here. And of course, there's no real other place to start other than with Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the 21-year-old Norwegian. 3:28 for 1,500, 7:27 for 3,000 metres, 12:48 for 5,000 metres, and he's only 21. He is the 4-time champion at Euro at under 20 level at this event. He has three European indoor titles, 2 European outdoor titles at the age of 17, and of course, most famously of all, he has an Olympic title. Can he beat the best in Europe though at senior level over cross country? And one of the men he has to beat is that man on the right. He loves a good celebration, Jimmy Gressier, and we've seen him succeed at under 20 and under 23 level. But can he utilise his 13:08 5,000 metre strength today to good effect and come home towards the front? Isaac Kimeli will certainly also be in contention there from Belgium. Andy Butchart has been up there in the past repeatedly at this race. We could expect to see more from him today. Spain will pack very well. It's hard to know which of their athletes will shine best, but as a team we strongly expect them to fare very well. Although we said that previously, and some of the Spanish athletes perhaps didn't fare well on the mud, but we'll see how their senior men go. There's lots of strength in their ranks. Aras Kaya is in there from Turkey, obviously the 2016 and 2019 champion of this race. Won a bronze medal in between in 2018, always a formidable athlete. Although 64:37 for the half marathon recently, might not be flying. And of course, over to Norway, the Norwegians led by the brothers Jakob and Philip Ingebrigtsen. I'm sure we'll be talking lots more about them as this 10k race plays out over the coming 28 minutes. Here's a man, when we've had Italy atop the podium, if they can do so again here, it'll almost certainly be through Yamane Burhan Kripa, the 25-year-old who's in excellent form this year. 13:02 for 5k, 27:10 for 10k. That makes him a big contender. And we see a false start. They're too keen to get underway, Hannah.
On your mark. Thankfully, no over-officiousness there in awarding an actual disqualification or a false start. I don't think, yeah, that wouldn't be in anybody's interest. I'm sure it was just nerves. But it is important to get a fast start. We haven't seen this short lap for a few races, but these men will be taking a sharp left-hand turn in not very long at all. I think that's why you'll see the likes of Hugo Hay and Jimmy Gressier there sprinting right to the front so they can navigate this corner as safely as possible.
Yeah, I think it's even any steeplechaser in there, and Jimmy Gressier has run many a steeplechase. You know, if you're coming into the barrier, you want to be able to see it, because that's helped so much more. If you run into this corner blind, it gets very dangerous, and I think athletes you can see there in the pack slowing down quite a bit and just being very careful. And it is Hugo Hay of France leads them around just ahead of Hiko Tenosa, the Irishman. He's hoping for a top 10, maybe a top 15 finish today. It'd be a brilliant result, but he's certainly setting his stall out earlier and putting himself right up there with the best in Europe. Hugo Hay leads right now.
I think we saw Julian Vanders right at the back. I don't know if he really struggled for pace in that first lap or got chewed up in the corner, but it is important. You don't want to now be spending the race trying to sprint round everybody to get back in contention. You want to be up there out of trouble, as these men are. Hugo Hay there, you can see Jack Rowe of Great Britain, he got himself out of trouble early doors as well, as did Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He kept wide, he kept out of trouble on that corner.
Yeah, I think he's sitting quietly in the pack there as Ingebrigtsen. Sometimes you wonder, he has a habit of kind of messing around a little bit too much at times. He's sitting in the pack, does Ingebrigtsen, when he's so far superior to so many athletes. He's got himself in trouble at different championships, just tripping over and moving around in between athletes and stepping on lines and clipping heels and stuff. But right now he's got a clear open road, as it were, in front of him, and he has a clear look at this. And I think in this race everyone is going to be sitting there waiting for Ingebrigtsen to move. But then again, if you wait too long, you're just playing it straight into his hand, because no one in this race will even come close to outkicking Ingebrigtsen if it comes down to a last lap burn up. So we'd expect to see some of the stronger men over 10k and perhaps even the half marathon and marathon towards the 4 opening of this race to push things along.
It's great to see Andrew Butchart straight up there pushing the pace. He had a great summer, making his second Olympic final in Tokyo. He got beaten at the British Trials by Jack Rowe. You can see him there in the sprint suit at the cross-country championships. But you'd suspect that Andy Butchart's getting better race on race as he recovers from a big summer and builds back into his training. But great to see him just getting out there and saying, this is too slow, this is a waste of time. But the field just so bunched behind him. It's so weird to see, isn't it, in the early stages of cross-country races?
It really is. I like this from Andy Butchart. He's just said, you know what, I'm not messing around, I'm not sitting in the pack. I am a very good athlete and I'm going to keep this an honest test. It's not going to turn into a 3K. This is meant to be won the hard way, and Andy Butchart is pushing things along. He's a 13:06 5,000 metre runner, 6th in the Olympic 5,000 metre final in 2016, 11th this year. So he comes here off the back of big performances on the track. But obviously, I suppose you have a man in there who's an Olympic champion, and of course Jimmy Gressier was in that Olympic 5,000 metre final as well. 13th, he came home that day. But Andy Butchart pushing things along, and I suppose for a Scottish athlete, this is summer-like conditions basically here in Dublin.
It certainly is, and we have seen the wind. It was visible in those medal ceremonies. I think it will be in their faces now. It's fine to lead when there's no wind and the conditions aren't bad, but Andrew Butchart there, he would have done a lot of work to stay in the lead in this open section of the course before they go back into the woods. But you can see it has sped the race up, hopefully had the effect that Andrew Butchart wanted on the race, for it to be a little bit faster. But you can see Julian Vanders, very much a half marathon sort of aficionado, and so proficient over that length of the longer races. He'll be wanting to have this be faster than it was in that opening lap.
Yeah, Vanders, I think he was probably trying to stay out of trouble with how far back he was hanging, but he's done a sensible thing, perhaps like the Germans in that under 20, it was the under 20 women's race, where they've kind of waited until about a kilometre in before showing their face at the front, and Vanders has done that. He's had a difficult year, has Vanders. He had a bout of pneumonia earlier this year in Kenya. He got very ill, was very unwell in around March and April, and he was kind of chasing his fitness then on the build-up to the Olympics. So it didn't go as well as he'd hoped. He was 21st in the Olympic 10,000 metres. But he has form in this arena, and there's no better guide than past championships when looking to who's going to make the podium here. And Julian Vanders, the Swiss 25-year-old, won bronze at this event in Lisbon in 2019. As he puts the arms out in airplane fashion there and says, "Stay out of my way, everyone."
Yeah, it was mind-boggling. I think if you're an armchair fan or not an elite runner, and you consider the pace these men are running at. You know, all these runners would have, on your screens right now, probably gone under 30 minutes for 10K, yet they can put their hands out and talk to the competitors whilst they're running around. But Julian Vanders there deciding that the whole field should slow down and be careful on that corner. They did seem to listen to him on this lap. We'll see how it goes on the next one.
Yeah, and Aras Kaya, the 22-time former champion, certainly did not enjoy going around that muddy section. He was like Bambi on ice, I suppose, as he navigated that hugely muddy section, but he stayed up, and that's the most important thing at this point in the race. All these top 20, top 30 men will be extremely comfortable right now. Some of the men back in the 40s and 50s will already be close to their proper threshold, but the men up front, the big medal contenders, will all feel like this is a jog, and they're all waiting for the big move. And really, there hasn't been one yet, but we see that is Carlos Mayo of Spain moving up there on the left. He was the under-23 European champion at 10K back in 2017. He's a 60.06 half marathoner last year, so great strength. And like we mentioned, we would expect in these early laps it would be men like that who have the 10K strength. He's run 27.25 for 10K, who have that half marathon pedigree to keep things honest and not let this become a 3K burn-up.
Changing positions so much. You can already see Julian Vanders there in the red of Switzerland. He's back in 20th. He was in the lead a second ago. And Adel Michel there of Spain, he's the third or fourth Spanish counter at the moment. He's been up and down, and for me that's a lot of energy mentally and physically. But that's what you've got to contend with in cross country. It's not an even run race. It's not simple. You do have to deal with those ups and downs, geographically, physically, mentally, all of it. And just a lot of change already, just 6 minutes into the race.
Yeah, and Aras Kaya definitely doesn't want to hang around here. He's making this honest as they approach the end of the first long lap. And Jimmy Gressier is sitting in second place. We would expect Gressier to finish well here. I'm sure he is known just as well for his celebrations by many beyond the world of athletics, but he is a very accomplished athlete as well, and there's a reason his celebrations go viral so often. It's because he's winning so many high-level races. As Jimmy Gressier, the French 24-year-old, says he just likes to wear the hat just to have a bit of style and bring a bit of flair. And it's the same thing he says about the celebrations. He has a football background, and he says he's used to celebrating, obviously, in that environment. He said, why not bring a bit of colour, a bit of personality to go often serious, sometimes serious world of running. He lights it up at the finish, and I'm sure he'll have something in mind today, but there's a big wall in the way before he gets to celebrate today, and that is the towering figure of Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who's currently running in about 15th position, just staying out of trouble, running wide of athletes.
We were talking about whether you can see past Jakob Ingebrigtsen for this win, and I just feel there's an awful lot of men in this field that have already got a senior or an under-23 European medal. They'll fancy their chances of getting another one next year and the year after. They do have nothing to lose, and I do feel it's a little bit of roll the dice and have a go. You learn more about your competitors and more about yourself by doing that. They might not beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but they might show how it might be possible next year or in the future. And I certainly think, I don't think any of these men will want to go home thinking, I didn't even try. So I think that's what we're seeing now with a lot of the big hitters up the front early doors. And Carlos Mayo pushing on the pace very early. Gressier now happy to run with Kaya at the front. So all the big names are up there early doors. They're not running for silver.
Certainly not. And we see the leading Irishman there is up just in about the top 10 at the moment. That's the national champion Hiko Tanosa, and this man has one of the great stories, I suppose, in athletics. Like so many others across Europe these days, he grew up in East Africa, in Ethiopia, and because of the conflict there, he was protesting against the injustices that were going on there against the Oromo people years ago. He got put in prison just for going to a protest. He got out months later. He came to Ireland for a couple of track races, and then while here, he received news that his friend had been shot dead for attending a protest back in Ethiopia. Hiko decided, rather than risk his life and return home, to start a new life and seek asylum in Ireland. And like so many others athletes we've seen here, like Yaman Kripa in 4th place, he began a new life for himself in Europe. And Hiko Tanosa got his Irish citizenship last year, and he represented Ireland for the first time at the European Cup on the track this summer. And this is his first time at the European cross country. He's a very, very proud local lad. He lives a couple of miles away from the course here, and he's trained on it regularly, coached by Phelim Kelly. And look out for him, but we don't think he'll be among the medals, but a top 10 or top 15 would be brilliant for little Hiko Tanosa there, back in about 15th place at the moment.
He's certainly running well at the moment, mixing it with the whole of this field. It's still quite bunched, and it's easy to forget that Philip Ingebrigtsen is a champion, a previous champion in Tilburg in 2018. I think this is a similar course to Tilburg, maybe less tree routes, slightly less trip hazards than we had in Tilburg. But Philip Ingebrigtsen has been up there in the top 5, the top 8 for the whole race, and that's a good sign for me, because I feel like when he's running well, he puts himself to the fore. But to already be getting involved up the front of the race is interesting. But you feel that the pace is lifting every lap, every half lap that goes by. There's a little bit of an increase in pace. I don't think it will be a sudden burst like we've seen in some of the younger age groups, but I do think the pressure will be kept on.
Yeah, and I think it is Gressier applying that pressure, and just as we said, that commentator's curse strikes again for Philip Ingebrigtsen, because we look to be relative lights out. I don't know if he have a trip or a fall or take a bad turn on that muddy patch, but he went from right up the front to back probably 15th place or so at the moment. But it's not a decisive break, I suppose. He's still very much in touch, as we see. That's a big blow to Norwegian hopes there. That is Mzengi, that is Zerai Kabram, is it? Or is it the other Norwegian?
Mzengi, yeah.
Mzengi, yes.
I mean, he stepped back in, so whether it was the heel on his shoe or so, he looked like he was dropping out, but he has slotted back in.
Yes, Zerai Mzengi, 35-year-old, he would be expected to be the third man on the Norwegian squad after Philip and Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's run 27.57 for 10k, 13.27 for 5k, 7.47 for 3k. And he recently ran very well at the Valencia 10k, 27.39 on the road. So that'll be a big blow if he has trouble. Perhaps that dilemma so many athletes face when a shoe comes loose. Do you stop to put it back on, or do you flick it away and try and run half barefoot for the rest of the race? But he looks to be back up and running, and hopefully his chances aren't damaged too much. But we do have a break out front, and the effect Jimmy Gressier, the pressure him and Aras Kaya have put on at the front, has brought 4 athletes clear. And if we were to pick 4 athletes we thought would pull clear in this race, I'd have to say it would be this 4. It's Aras Kaya, the champion in 2016 and 2019. It's Jimmy Gressier, the under-23 European champion at 5,000 metres and 10,000 metres back in 2019. 13th in the Olympic final over 5,000 metres. It's from Italy, Yamane Berhan Kripa, who was 11th in the Olympic final over 10,000 metres, is a 13:02 5k athlete, 27:10 for 10k. And then, of course, sitting quietly, biding his time, is Jakob Ingebrigtsen, the mercurial talent, the 21-year-old from Norway. And I know he always looks like this, Hannah, but he really does look like he's jogging.
He does just look like he's jogging when he's going anything slower than, I don't know, 3:35 pace.
And look at him there, just as they run into the teeth of that wind. You can see Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He is a man over 6 foot tall. He's about 188, I think, tall. And he literally bows his head just to literally hide behind Aras Kaya as they run into the teeth of that wind. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but one thing about Jakob Ingebrigtsen, when you see his pacing strategy, whether it's cross-country or 1500, he spends his energy so wisely and he's so tactically astute. And there he is, just seeking the tiniest advantage as they run there into the wind by bowing his head, getting a little bit of an aerodynamic lift.
Maybe Man Kripa and Gressier are thinking, well, I'll tuck in behind Jakob Ingebrigtsen because he's taller, but I don't think that's an efficient run. Even if you're getting a bit more shelter, it's probably more effort to lean down.
I think he might have a sore neck tomorrow after that, but if he has a gold medal, I'm sure he won't mind too much.
And I was interested to see Isaac Kameli not be with that front group, not cover that move, whether that was intentional or he didn't see it happen. But Isaac Kameli at the moment leading that chase pack. He'll be in 5th place. But it's all changed on the team standings. It's back to Spain in the lead. They were in the lead on the first lap, and then they totally dropped out of the top 3. And France were in the lead, and Norway. There's a lot of change. We'll have to maybe give it another lap or two before we really pay attention to those team standings, because it's a bit too transient at the moment.
Exactly. It's only in the last 800 metres or so this race has really started to break open, and we're finding out, and no surprise to see Spain packing well there in the second pack. But like we said, with only 3 to count, you need someone fairly far up there to get on top in the team race, and right now it is Norway. No surprises there. We'd be shocked if someone can turn over Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but it's worth reminding everyone that as much as this young man has achieved, he's never won a title, a senior European cross-country title. He's never tried to win one. He's won 4 at under 20 level. But when he stepped up to, say, the World Under-20 cross-country, he was not able to go with the best talent of East Africa at the championships in Aarhus a couple of years ago. So he is a more accomplished athlete on the track, and as good as he is on the track, we still don't know. We still haven't got to the bottom of just how good he is at cross-country. We suspect he'll be very good, but nothing is given in this arena. You have to go and earn it, and Jakob Ingebrigtsen is being firmly put to the test here early in this race by Aras Kaya, Yaman Kripa and Jimmy Gressier.
You don't wonder, we should ask Mark Butler, our statistician, but when was the last time a European man beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen? In a final, yeah, you can't count heats, you can't count the rounds. It must have been a long time since someone's beaten him in a championship.
That's a good point. Lewandowski beat him at the Euro Indoors a couple of years ago in the 1500.
That was probably it then, wasn't it?
3 years ago, probably. But yeah, we'll leave that one to Mark. He's one of, or if not the best statisticians in world athletics. But we see this race, it's quite densely packed there in that second group. The Brits are packing well in there, the French are packing well, the Spaniards are packing well. It's all to play for there. I think there's 2 Irishmen even in amongst that group, and they're all top 20 positions. So we see Philip Ingebrigtsen has lost contact, the champion back in 2018, on the tight turns in the mud of Tilburg. He reigned supreme, but doesn't look like he's headed for a top 15 finish here unless he can produce something brilliant here over the second half of this race. But they pass through now, 16 minutes on the clock. They're coming up towards, this will be 2 laps to go. 3 laps to go, isn't it?
A long time to go. 10,000 metres over mud. It's just a big ask of these men, but I think a lot of them will enjoy this. A lot of them enjoy cross country and think it's a very purest part of athletics. Constanze Klosterhalfen, she said that. She said cross country is pure, it's natural, and it's very nice without the lap paces and the sort of emphasis on time. Just real pure racing out there in the elements. These men will be enjoying every lap. And you look at someone like Jimmy Gressier moving up from the 8k distance and under 23s. He's already proven himself over 10k on the track and the road. This won't be a hard step up for him in terms of distance. Quality, perhaps, he's had it all his own way in the age groups, as has Jakob Ingebrigtsen. But it's really quite tantalising to see the under-20 champion, the under-23 champion and the senior champion all in one group there at the front, with Johan Krippe thrown in as well.
Yeah, it's really all to play for here. It's very hard to gauge how this is going to go. As we said, Aras Kaya is so proven in this environment. Bronze medal in 2018, gold in 2016 and 2019, but you would imagine that in Lisbon 3 weeks ago, when he went to run a half marathon over there, he would have expected to run a whole lot faster than 64:37. Was that just a prep race? Was it just something to sharpen his fitness and sharpen his strength ahead of this, or was something amiss? But either way, he looks to be in much better form here, because he's contending for this title and certainly contending for a medal, and he's putting the other men around him under a lot of pressure.
Have got some real cross-country specialists in this Turkish team, and the European cross-country specialists in Yasmin Can and Aras Kaya. They know what they're doing. They know how to prepare for this, and it's hard to write them off. I think in Lisbon we were worried about Yasmin Can. She hadn't shown any form coming to that, and she delivered on the day as well. So this is really hotting up for about as good a battle as we could have hoped for.
Certainly, and Krippe is really an athlete who just continues to get better and better, and watch the Italian there as well. Like I said, 13:02 on the track this year for 5k, 27:10 for 10k. He's set Italian records at both. At under 20 level, he has form in this environment. He won the under 20 race at 2014 and 2015, and of course won silver in Lisbon 2 years ago behind Kaya on the hills of Lisbon. But this is a much flatter, there's undulations on it, but there's no death, or there's no hill that makes you question your very existence, I suppose, on the course. It's just a short little jab.
No, Lisbon was something else for anyone that watched it online or was there in person. That was just on the side of a hill, just relentless. This is, you can get into your running here a little bit on some sections of this course, not right here when you're going around these corners, but Johan Krippe, so many medals. He's got 5 individual medals. He's got more than Jakob Ingebrigtsen when we talk about his accomplishments, but Johan Krippe every year turns up to this championships and picks up a medal. I'm sure he'd love it to be a gold medal. He's been preparing in Kenya, as has Kaya as well, so he'll have that altitude training advantage. Is Ingebrigtsen being in Flagstaff? I feel like he often is this time of year.
I'm not actually sure, this year, but he's a regular visitor to Flagstaff and San Moritz on a European base, but I'm sure San Moritz is covered in snow at the moment. But Ingebrigtsen certainly looks in good fitness here as we pass through, probably entering the last 3k or so now with this race we're approaching. We're coming up with 2 laps to go, about 3.5k to run at the moment, and Kaya keeps the pressure on up front. Krippe has another one of the great stories of European athletics. He was born in Ethiopia. He was orphaned at the age of 7, and then he was adopted by an Italian couple along with his brother, built a new life for himself in Italy, and how he has worn their colours with such pride and such prestige on the European and global stage in recent years. And again, his clocked times that very much mean he's an athlete on the up and will remain a contender, not just at European level, but amongst the best in the world at global level. And the battle, there's 4 away up front, but the battle for 5th place, 6th place, back to, about 15th place. There's about a dozen athletes in the battle for that. Even Irishman Hiko Tenosa is in there. That is Mayo of Spain. There's a few French athletes in there. There's Isaac Canelli of Belgium. Brian Fay of Ireland, who's just back off the NCAA cross country, is latching onto the back of that pack. But that's all at the moment. We think a battle for 5th place, but that will be crucial how that pack filters out over this final 3k in the battle for team gold. We'll check in on the team standings, because this is getting down to the crunch time, individually and team. They're coming up past the finish line with 3 kilometers to run, and Ingebrigtsen looks like he's taking a much bigger interest in things out front as they loop into the home straight for what will be the 3rd last time.
That last junior title in Lisbon, he did all that running in the last lap. I wonder if he'll have a similar tactic today, whether he is going to relax and save himself for a big last lap. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he looks comfortable, he's covered every move. We saw that with Charles Hicks in the under-23 race. He was never out of that top 3 or that top 4, but now they've broken away as well. That's similar for these 4 competitors, but Jakob looks like he's covering everything pretty comfortably. Let's see if this group can get whittled down from 4 to 3 over the next 3 kilometres.
I think Jakob could not be more composed at the moment. He took a look around him there, a long look around him, perhaps looking for his brother, looking for his teammates, or was he looking for other rivals in the battle for gold? And I think the answer he found is that he only has 3 of them, and the man in front Aras Kaya is going to be one of them, but the two men behind are accomplished performers at the track, and while they may not have the kicking skills of Jakob Ingebrigtsen, if he is a little bit below his best, Jimmy Gressier and Yaman Kripa will be able to expose any chinks in his armour. But at the moment, Ingebrigtsen looks so composed. I think, Hannah, when you see him running like this, he is the model of running economy that physiologists probably talk about when they talk about running economy.
It's just his cadence, you know, he's not even having to take that many strides, and he's just able to keep up with the others. But we know he can turn on that leg speed when he has to, when he is at full pelt. He just looks so comfortable, even though the terrain's tricky. And I wonder if that's a sort of growing up in running cross country, growing up in Norway, whether you can run over this sort of stuff without really thinking about it, versus some of your track specialists that sometimes really struggle.
Yeah, still no major moves out of this pack. It'll be very interesting to see who decides to move first. Facial expressions can sometimes give you an indication, but at the moment all these men look quite relaxed. You have to say Kaya looks like he's working the hardest, but Ingebrigtsen, he looks almost bored. He looks so casual with how he is running at the moment, but then again, he looks like that midway through an Olympic final as well. But he's achieved so much, but he's never won this title. This is his first try at it. Can anyone stop him? He's got a tattoo on his arm that says fast. And over this final 2 kilometres, 2.5 kilometres we've got to run now, he'll be trying to prove that. And in come the team standings as we get to crunch time, and it's France, Spain and Norway. Ireland up to 4th as well. There's a big surprise, but we'll see if they can maybe claw their way onto a podium. But it is France at the moment, packing brilliantly and being led once again by the best cross-country runner in France. That is Jimmy Gressier. Rounds that turn and sneaks up the inside there and puts a bit more pressure on Kaya.
And for the first time, just before we got those team scores, I was going to say Yaman Kripa, he grimaced. I don't know if he's picked up a stitch or he's picked up an injury there, but that's something I've never seen. I've never seen Yaman Kripa stop in a race. He's always very in tune with his pacing and his ability. But something is wrong with Yaman Kripa today, and suddenly we are down 2-3. And it could be Jimmy Gressier picking up his first senior medal in his first attempt at the senior distance, and that's even more good news for the French team. We've got 4 men behind there in that chase pack, and Jimmy Gressier in the front. So you'd say that's looking incredibly good for the French medal hopes.
It certainly is. It is Felix Boer who is leading the way there, and then I think it is Jan Schrub, the two men who are back in currently 4th and 5th for France, leading the way for that chase back. And who knows, if one of these athletes falls apart over this final 2.5 kilometres, they could pick up the pieces and perhaps grab themselves a bronze medal. But Jimmy Gressier looks like he's hurting. This is the first time we've seen him splinter away from the leading two. Aras Kaya, it's been relentless what he's done over this last 5, 6, 7 kilometres. He's put all these men under the cosh in a stout defence of his title. But once again, we thought we'll just get a shot at Kripa as he pulls up there. Not sure what that was. He didn't look like he was injured, but is clearly feeling something in a major discomfort, because an athlete of his calibre would never step off the track unless he was deeply unwell while in the battle for gold, silver and indeed bronze. And there he is after the race, and looking back through the field, we did not see him rejoin the race. And let's hope all is okay with Yaman Kripa. But back to the race, and they're running uphill, wind on their backs, and Aras Kaya and Jakob Ingebrigtsen have about 6-7 metre advantage over Jimmy Gressier. And there is a big gap then. I think it's one of the lap athletes we're seeing behind that were in the foreground. I think it's the French athletes lead a cluster of athletes then in the battle for 4th. Can Jimmy Gressier find something to close down on these two? But you just get the feeling Ingebrigtsen is waiting to inject something here, waiting until this last 1500 metre stretch. And we know currently in the world of 1500 metre running, there's no one better than Ingebrigtsen.
Right, Jakob Ingebrigtsen will be thinking, this is my kind of distance now, I know what I'm doing. But Aras Kaya's asked questions of the whole field. That bell will be a welcome sound for everybody, nobody more than Jimmy Gressier. He's given everything to try and run with that gold and silver medal positions, but he's got to watch out. There's a charge on behind, being led by his teammates, but he's strong. This could be a tough last lap for the young Frenchman, and he might have to just let that gold and silver ease away with Aras Kaya and Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Absolutely, but Jimmy Gressier has the ability to win his first senior medal at European cross-country championships and indeed lead his team to gold, because as the chasers pass through us, there is now 4 French men in the top 8 spots. They're packing unbelievably well. Just behind them, Brian Fay for Ireland in 9th, and then it's Mayo of Spain. These are the top, rounding out the top 10, but we'll concentrate on the battle up front. Jimmy Gressier looks like he's in distress. Always a signal when an athlete looks behind him this far from home. He's wondering about who's coming to hunt him down. down in the battle for bronze, and I think he may be resigned that gold and silver could prove beyond him today. But Aras Kaya, it's been relentless from the Turk, the defending champion, trying to win his third title. We know that he has such a good record of showing up, no matter the course, no matter the conditions, of getting a medal. But will it be gold or will it be silver? Because Jakob Ingebrigtsen could be about to arrive on the senior stage as a European cross-country champion. We know he's done it before at under 20 level. We know he's killed everyone on the track, no matter the distance. But now, over 10,000 metres over the muck and the wind and the soft underfoot conditions, he might be about to reign supreme over everyone in Europe.
You've got to expect Jakob Ingebrigtsen to make a move. He's not really tried it. That, for me, that's his first try. Maybe he's testing out how is Aras Kaya feeling? Has he got anything left in the tank? Or have I just got to move up a gear and I'll be all right? Mark Butler informs me the last European to beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen was Philip Ingebrigtsen at the Paris Diamond League in 2019. So it's been a long old time since a European beat Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and I don't think it's going to happen today.
It doesn't look like it. Jakob Ingebrigtsen is well on his way to victory here as he rounds up here. It looks like Jakob Ingebrigtsen is putting this race to bed. He is on his way as he rounds that turn. He has got a 10-15 metre advantage. This is the muckiest, the trickiest section of this course. He'll be probably careful here just to make sure he doesn't lose his footing at any point, because it looks like that's the only thing that might stop Jakob Ingebrigtsen at this stage. He's pulling out an advantage. We haven't seen him race since the Norwegian champs over 1,500 metres back in September. He won that, of course, with ease. But here he is again, first race back. We wondered about his fitness, but it looks in fine fettle right now because he is tearing this field apart. He saved it all for the last lap, but now that he's injected this pace, it looks like Aras Kaya and Jimmy Gressier back in third have nothing left to answer.
It really does look like he was just biding his time. We said maybe he'd use those same tactics he employed in Lisbon with a big last lap, but whatever he's done today, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, it's very impressive and just shows his prowess over any surface. See Aras Kaya there working hard. He's looking behind, but I don't think he's got anything to fear from Jimmy Gressier. I think Jimmy Gressier has got to dig incredibly deep to hold on to that bronze medal. There's a whole pack behind him chasing and helping each other to they'll be motivated by team points, but at some point they might realise there's a bronze medal up for grabs, but not a gold medal. That is on its way to Norway with Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Absolutely, I think France might get that gold. Norway will pack well as well, but we'll see how the team medals shake up in a while. But this is all about the individual race right now and the individual brilliance of Jakob Ingebrigtsen. You can see the amount of fans lining the course. No one has left the course here in Chancery. This is the man so many had come from all over Ireland and indeed abroad to see today. He is a star of global distance running. He is an A-list star of the sport, and at 21 years old he has accomplished so much in his young career. He is pulling out that advantage every step of the way. It's about 40-50 metres now over Aras Kaya. Jimmy Gressier has actually responded well for second and may end up in the battle for silver, but as he rounds the last turn into the home straight for the final time, it's a good time to reflect on the career of Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Back in 2016 he announced his talents to the world when showing up at the European Cross Country Championships under 20 race. He won 4 consecutive races at that. At the age of 17, he won 2 European outdoor titles on the track. He's won 3 European indoor titles. The youngest sub-4 miler in history. The Olympic champion at 1,500 metres. A 3:28 1,500 metre man. Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen at the age of 21. A title he'd never won is the European Cross Country Championship. But today in Dublin, Jakob Ingebrigtsen has come of age with his first ever title at the European Cross Country Championships. King Ingebrigtsen in Dublin. It is Aras Kaya as well who's hung on for a second. A brilliant performance from him. He ran so strongly through the opening laps. He made it an honest test, a stout defence of his title. Well done to Aras Kaya in second. And Jimmy Gressier fought so hard to contend up front. Not gold or silver, but it's a bronze medal, and a brilliant bronze it is for Jimmy Gressier. And we see the Irish athletes, Brian Fay there almost getting into the top 10 in the battle with Isaac Camilli. Comes across in 10th place. What a run by him. Carlos Maya comes across there in 11th for Spain, but Hannah, I'm not even sure if Jakob is out of breath.
He's probably not. We saw Axel van Christensen. He looked pretty relaxed after his victory in the first race this morning in the under-20 men's. But Jakob Ingebrigtsen, yeah, took that at a canter. And as did Hugo Hay. So just sauntered into that 4th place, just did enough to get those team points. But fantastic packing there from France. 3rd, 4th and 6th for their men's team in this senior race. Aris Kaya there, valiant attempt to defend his title. He has won this twice before, having to settle for a silver medal today at the hands of the Olympic champion. So that's not too shabby if you lose out to the Olympic champion.
I was going to say, Aris Kaya really ran way above what I was expecting that he might do. He hasn't had a very good year. He didn't go to the Olympics. Disappointing half marathon performances, as I mentioned earlier. So I wonder if that's an omen for the women's race with Yasmin Jan, who's been training with Aris Kaya. And I make it that Jakob Ingebrigtsen was without a European cross-country title for about 3.25 hours, because obviously he lost his junior title he'd held for since 2016, earlier in the day. Well, and now he's back.
He couldn't have that. I'm sure he was furious looking on at not having a European cross-country title. But yeah, it completes for Jakob Ingebrigtsen, of course, the triple crown. You know, he won those European outdoor titles back in 2018, European indoor titles in 2021 and 2019, and now here in Fingal Dublin at the end of 2021, he has ticked every box at European level. Finally, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, at the tender age of 21, is a European senior cross-country champion.
Lovely to see those French men. They will have been very used to winning under 23 European medals, but do that on a senior stage almost straight away for Hugo Hay and Jimmy Gressier. That's really, really nice, and they've obviously attacked the senior age group really well.
Certainly, we see so many athletes there dropping like bowling pins after 10 kilometres of hard running on the cross country. You often find actually it's kind of more the underage races sometimes where they hit the ground after the race. The level of aerobic conditioning a lot of these men would have built up over 10 years when when pushing themselves to the limit, 30 seconds later, a minute later, they can often bounce back and somehow work their way through the post-race mixed zone interviews. I somehow have a feeling that won't be an issue for Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
I think he'll be all right. But it's so special to see an Olympic champion over 1,500 metres look at the calendar and go, yeah, you know what, European Athletics Cross-Country Championships is important to me. And I think as a family, they've always embraced every championship, and that's great. They could be going away and time trialling. He could probably be doing commercial opportunities and appearances every day of the week if he wanted in Norway. And instead he's gone, no, I fancy Fingal Dublin and a European Cross-Country Championships, because that's important, and they're great ambassadors for our sport in that way.
And not just the cross-country, the toughest race in the cross-country, because he could have opted for under-23 as we've discussed, and that was a really high-quality race. The cream really came to the top.
We'll have a quick look back at how Jakob Ingebrigtsen completed the triple crown of European senior titles, indoor, outdoor, and now cross-country. He bided his time in a big way, and when you've run 3:28 for 1,500 and 7:27 for 3,000 metres, I mean, who wouldn't? There he is, just waiting until that last lap, imposing his superlative power over the final 800 metres. And you get the impression if there was an athlete a good bit ahead of Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he would have been able to run them down too, because there looks like lots more in the locker, even if he is only in the middle of his base training. And like you said, Hannah, the Ingebrigtsens, no matter how much they accomplish, they always attend and support the SPAR European Cross-Country Championships, and indeed so many other events